It's Wednesday afternoon, September 20th. It's 2 days before my 70th birthday. And you're listening to 91.9 FM WITT. That means you're listening to the Indy's Trusted Servant Show with yours truly, Danny O'Malia, Indy's Trusted Servant. What is Indy's Trusted Servant? Well, I do customer service training and keynote speaking about customer service, and it's all about the culture of the organization is going to determine the level of customer service and the level of employee satisfaction. Yes, I was O'Malia Food Markets back in the day, and if you want to talk to me more about that, give me a call at 317-413-9062. But the Indy's Trusted Servant Show is all about lively local small biz and community talk. And if you listen every week on 91.9, you'll feel the pulse of Indy. I have a lot of great guests and a lot of small biz people, a lot of not-for-profit people. What's going on in Indy? My guest this week is Jay Cox, my designated Medicare expert. Jay has been a guest on the show once before, and I know that the timing is right to have Jay on now, and he'll explain that to you all. Jay Cox, Mr. Medicare, Mr. Retirement, welcome to the Indy's Trusted Servant Show.
Thank you, Danny. Good to be back again.
Well, I don't know if you want to start with your education programs or you want to start with explaining to my listeners why you got to do long-term planning. You tell me what you want to start with.
Sure. Well, we're going to blend Medicare and long-term planning together today. What's important to first talk about is the fact that we are approaching the open enrollment season for Medicare, as Danny was saying a moment ago. And in order to facilitate that, we are going to be doing free public education programs in libraries all around Marion County. These are strictly information, nothing is for sale, no insurance companies are involved, just explaining how your federal government benefits work so that you're able to make the best choices for yourself in the open enrollment season. We can begin sharing the details of the programs in October, and enrollment begins the 15th. You're able to enroll in Medicare programs up until December 7th, and then you're locked in for 2018.
So, October 15th through December 7th, and that's for people that are not on Medicare yet and on Medicare to make changes?
Yes, anyone who's going to be turning 65 at this time or is already 65.
Okay, so it's also for people that are already on, but they want to learn what's new, right?
Yes, with the exception also if you might have been rated as having a Social Security disability and have been awarded Medicare Parts A and Part B and you're under 65, you can enroll now also.
Okay, so tell us about, maybe just that everybody knows what Medicare and Social Security is to an extent anyway. Tell us about more about these education programs and where they are and when they are.
Yep. Well, actually, we're going to be doing them this week and next. You missed the first one earlier this afternoon. We did 2 programs at the Warren Library, but we've got dates at the Nora, the Lawrence, the Irvington, and the Glendale coming up. On Friday, September 22nd, we're at the Nora Library. On Monday, the 25th, we're at Lawrence. On Wednesday, the 27th, we're at Irvington. And on Friday, the 29th, we'll be at Glendale. And on all these programs, we do 2 each day for your convenience, either a morning program from 10 to 11 a.m. or an afternoon program from 2 to 3 p.m. Come on out, no reservations are necessary, and we'd be happy to see you then.
So how do I go about... say I didn't have a pen and I didn't write that date down for the Irvington Library. How do I go online or call to find out what that date is?
Sure. Well, you can call me at my office, which is at the Fort Harrison Office Park. That number is 317, of course, 559-2140, or email me at jcoxindiana@live.com.
And Cox is C-O-X.
Yes.
Right.
Jaycox, Indiana spelled out at live.com, L-I-V-E.
Now, Jay, tell us how you got into doing this.
Well, this is something that I was very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time, Danny, because The Medicare laws changed dramatically back in the year 2005 when Congress passed a new law called the Medicare Modernization Act. I was very fortunate to be there and get training and be enrolled and be participating in the very first enrollment season then, and I've done every year since then. So we've really been there and done that. We have many hundreds of clients all over central Indiana, but we're always interested in meeting more people and bringing them on board as well.
So tell us what you can about the changes that you're going to be talking about at these seminars.
Well, what we'll be doing first off, as I said, is strictly educational, explaining the federal government laws as to what is your Part A and your Part B benefit that you receive when you turn 65 and are enrolled in Original Medicare. We'll explain the two alternatives and why you need to be aware of them, either the Medicare Supplement or the Medicare Advantage. And in particular, the Medicare Advantage is becoming more and more popular each year. There are now about 12 million people enrolled in Medicare supplements, but 18 million in the Advantage programs. And next year, we're going to have a new Advantage program that not only has no monthly premium, it even has free family doctor visits. So there's good things coming up, but you need to come out and learn all about them.
Wow, free family visits, that's definitely new, right?
Your family care physician. Probably not too many families when we're dealing with Medicare recipients.
Right.
I could have put that better, but yes, your primary care physician visits will be free.
With Medicare Advantage?
With a particular new type of carrier who's coming into town that you need to come to our library meetings to learn more about.
Okay. Well, then the timing is absolutely fantastic for this, right?
That's right, and that's why I say I wanted to blend this conversation about Medicare along with information about the subject of long-term care planning. Because there's always a concern, do I need to get long-term care insurance? Do I need to go through that stressful process? Do I need to spend all that money because it is expensive? Or is there a better alternative at a better price? And I'm here to say that yes, there absolutely is.
Wow, and that is Medicare?
Well, that's a program that goes along with your Medicare benefits. It's something that you would need to prescribe to above and beyond the basic benefit given to you through the government. But that's why we tell people when it comes to planning for your long-term care, you need to be a proactive consumer of all your benefits. You need to learn what's available, why you would need it, and the best way to get it so that you get it now when you need it later.
Gotcha. Now, is this an annual time? What is it?
The Medicare open enrollment season is an annual event.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Every year between October 15th and December 7th you can enroll, but all these what we call ancillary services are available to be able to be added on a year-round basis. And the reason we want to talk about the subject of long-term care is that when we look into the future, we can see that, well, we don't know what's going to happen, but maybe good things will happen, but maybe bad things might happen. Because we'd like to think if something good will happen, it will probably happen to me, right?
Well, we like to think that.
Sure, like for example, if you're in a raffle drawing and you're looking at the numbers on your ticket, you're really expecting to hear the last three digits read to be you.
Try to be optimistic.
That's right. So if we think if something good will happen, it will probably happen to me, but let's flip the coin over and say, what if something bad will happen? It probably won't happen to me, is what we'd like to think.
But it happens.
And we'd like to think we have the same 50-50 chance, but the reality is when it comes to the subject of long-term care, the odds are 2 out of 3 against you. It really truly is a fact that you've probably heard the saying that 2 out of 3 seniors at some time in the remainder of their lifetime will need some type of skilled care treatment. And while that is true, there's another bit of information that you need to know about that we'll get into later. But understand it is an important topic that needs to be considered and learned about for alternatives.
Now, before we take our first underwriter's break, here's a loaded question for you. When should you start thinking about this? Because you're not just talking to people that are about to get on the Medicare. You're really talking to people that are much younger. Talk about that a little bit.
That's right, Danny.
Both.
Yes. I began talking with people about this subject of health care for your senior years when people are in their 50s. And they don't really understand why. They think, well, that's something that I can put off. A couple reasons you don't want to have that kind of thinking is that, number one, stuff happens at every age. We know that 40% of all the residents in skilled nursing homes are under the age of 65.
Really? 40%?
40%. But more than that, even in their 50s, you're still enjoying your good health and your prime earning years. The best time to get involved in some of these ancillary supporting programs for Medicare is in your 50s, because we use a system which says whatever the premium is when you enroll in the program stays your premium. It doesn't go up with age. So the younger you get into some of these programs and lock in the lower prices, the much better off you'll be years later.
Gotcha.
And let me tell you the other side of the story here. I just finished telling you that the statistic is true that while 2 out of 3 seniors will need skilled care recovery, we now know that about 84% of them will be able to recover and return home within the course of the first year. So if the vast majority of people do not need that extended amount of coverage you get from long-term care, and if you don't have the kind of wealthy assets approaching the $500,000 to $1 million, enough that you need to protect, there's a better alternative for you, and it's called short-term care. And that's what I want to help you learn more about.
Tell us more about that.
Well, short-term care is just like long-term care, except for the fact that short-term care is something that will provide you with benefits for up to 1 year, when we now know that 84% of the people only require that length of time. So what you can do is you can arrange for a daily reimbursement amount. Because of the fact that the way Medicare works is if you are hospitalized and need to go into skilled care before you can go home, the folks at Medicare will be kind enough to cover the cost of the first 20 days for you, but then in days 21 through 100, you have a daily copay of $164
Per day.
per day. And if you want to do the math on that real quick, that's about $13,000 bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually,
that's over 100.
Well, that's the good news, Danny, because when it goes over 100, you're on your own, and the costs in that range are more like about $250. A short-term care plan will be able to provide you with the amount of money you would like to have in $10 increments up to $600 a day that will be able to pay for those costs for you. So you can have the security knowing of if and when the day comes that you need that kind of care, it's not going to come out of your pocket, it's going to come out of that other person's pocket.
Now, is that going to be something you're going to touch on during your meet and greets, your educational programs?
Well, we certainly will, but the main thing we want to talk about in our program is helping people understand the basics of not only Part A and Part B Medicare,
Advantage,
but also the Advantage program, which is a Part C, and then of course the drug plan Part D that goes along with it, and how the Medicare Advantage programs can be much less expensive and adequately covering you as opposed to the cost of a Medicare supplement, which is in the couple $100s and up a month range.
And I can speak to this because I'm, as I mentioned at the top of the show, about to be 70 years old, so I'm somewhat familiar with some of these programs. And I have 3 different meds that I'm on, cholesterol type stuff, blood thinners, and so on and so forth. One of the meds, I go to Meijer every month and pick it up for free as part of all of this. And the other meds are highly covered. Let's put it that way. So I can speak from experience that if you do the studying and you make the right moves, you can save yourself a lot of money.
Well, not only that, but the the alternative is opposed to being on the other side where you're having drugs that are costing hundreds and even thousands of dollars a month. One of the things we'll be able to explain in our program is not only how to find the Part D program that's best for you, but we'll also, for the first time, have news about what I would call a prescription buyers club that allows you to be able, that will allow you to be able to buy drugs at cost from manufacturers worldwide. And what's interesting about that is everyone likes to think, oh, I want the security of having drugs that are made here in America. Well, if you take that approach, you'll only be able to take about 1 out of 4 of your prescriptions, because about 75% of all the drugs that are approved by the FDA for sale in the market today are manufactured in other countries around the world. In fact, the largest prescription manufacturer in the world is a huge plant over in India owned by Walmart.
And I was going to say, these are American-owned companies that are doing the manufacturing.
Well, the thing is, Danny, that the Federal Drug Administration publishes standards and guidelines that must be met to be able to offer the drugs sold in America, and there is a monthly inspection to verify that these foreign manufacturers are producing to the federal government requirements. We're able to offer a program. It is a subscription program where you are able to buy the drugs at cost from the foreign manufacturers and have them shipped to you at a cost which can be many hundreds and even thousands of dollars a month less than what would be the cost at walking into the drugstore here in America today.
Okay, awesome. You know what? I feel compelled to have you read where and when these things are again, even though you've done it once, okay? You got that handy?
Sure.
Because I think we've got some people's attention, so let's tell them where they can go to learn more about this than just listen to the show.
Sure. As I said, we just finished earlier this afternoon the program at the Warren Library, so if you're in the Warren area, you may just want to call me to talk directly. I'll be glad to speak with you about that. Or hopefully you might be able to...
that phone number.
Yeah, my phone number again at my office at the Fort Harrison Office Park is 317-559-2140, or the email is jcoxindiana@live.com.
Now go into the rest of the programs that are upcoming.
We will be at the and remember, in each of these programs, folks, for your convenience, we do one session in the morning from 10 to 11 a.m. and another session in the afternoon from 2 to 3 p.m. These are 1-hour programs. After 1 hour and 1 minute, you'll be walking out the door. The program on this Friday, September 22nd, is at the Nora Library, 10 and 2. Then on Monday, September 25th, we'll be at the Lawrence Library at 10 and 2. On Wednesday, September 27th, we'll be at the Irvington Library from 10 to 10 and 2. And on Friday, September 29th, we'll be in Glendale. Now, if you live in another part of town where those places aren't convenient for you, we do have other libraries and other people that are presenting programs. Call me and tell me where you are, and I'll help you find a program closer to you.
Yeah, and the Glendale one is at the Glendale Library?
Yeah, the Glendale Library, which is on the second floor,
right.
Out at you take the elevator up to the second floor, and they got a huge room up there.
It used to be Earth or Blocks, one or the other.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk about a couple of supporting benefits that we can get into when we're talking about Medicare and retirement planning issues. So far, we've just talked about health care.
Right.
Let's talk about the financial subjects for a minute. The reality is, if you do end up in a situation later in life where you're involved with the various types of skilled care that are available, they can become very expensive. They can become very draining on your finances.
And your state of mind.
That's right. So there's a couple programs you might want to know about in advance to do some planning to be able to secure some dollars from being forced into what's called the Medicaid spend down. Because someday you may end up in a situation where you're going to have to spend all your money till it's gone and end up going on Medicaid. We have some ways that are available to help you preserve those dollars that would not ever have to be spent. In each of these cases, I'm also going to talk about programs that are two different types of trusts I'll tell you about real quickly, but I also will mention to you, no attorneys need to be involved with these, so you don't end up spending as much on the legal fees as you do on the supporting benefits.
Oh, okay.
A funeral
Take that,
trust.
attorneys.
No offense intended. A funeral trust is what we call an exempt asset. What that means is if you're ever in a situation you're spending money on skilled care, they can compel you to spend every dollar you've got down to your last $2,000. Now, if you might happen to have a community spouse at home, they're allowed to preserve half of your estate up to a maximum of $120,000, but you would be required to spend down to your last $2,000. If you'd like to be able to know that there will be money still available for your final expenses, for your funeral, for paying off your medical expenses so they don't become somebody else's expenses, you can put money into something called a funeral trust. This is a state law program. Every state in the country has a benefit like this, and what it allows you to do is put $10,000 into a secure guaranteed account which you will never have to spend on any type of skilled care facilities or medical costs. What that means is you can preserve $10,000 for yourself for the final expenses of your lifetime. The other benefit I'd like to mention real quickly is something called an estate trust. Because when you get into those spend down situations, unless you've done some pre-planning, if you have money that you want to designate to go to family members, children, grandchildren, or even your favorite institutions like your cathedral high school or your college,
Yep.
you need to know about an estate trust, which you can put up to $100,000 into the names of each individual you want to, and put that into a situation where time can protect that from having to be spent down on these healthcare programs.
So if you got 8 grandkids, you could put $100,000 in each one?
Not only that, but so can your spouse. So if you had 8
Wow.
grandchildren, technically you could put aside $100,000 times 16.
Yeah.
And if you want to do that, Danny, I'd like to talk with you about how to do that afterwards.
Okay. Okay. We might do that. We might just do that. That is just awesome information, and I don't think very many people really avail themselves of this kind of information. And I guess it's because, why is that?
Well, it goes back to when we were kids growing up. We watched our parents retire and how easy it was. They had the nice big fat pensions. Social Security paid more than enough money to be able to live on. Now we're in a situation where people from our generation will need 120% of their Social Security income just for their medical costs.
120%.
120% just for the medical. That's why I tell everyone, you need to become a proactive consumer. If you will, and you work with a knowledgeable professional like myself, there are a lot of good, smart things you can do for yourself now, but it takes pre-planning and it takes the gumption to be able to sit down and say, what can we do to secure our future better than just hoping that something works out? Because I always tell people, hope makes a lousy insurance policy.
It does. And how many people live fat and sassy to be 80, die in their sleep, and never have a problem? Not very many, right?
Whatever might happen to someone else doesn't affect whatever might happen to you. If you are concerned about yourself, you need to do some proactive planning.
Gotcha. In 1 minute, what else do you want to say before we have to go off the air?
Well, this is the time of year to get involved with this stuff. And I want to tell you, if you're a little skittish about the subject matter, you don't have to learn this stuff. You just need to listen and understand and work with somebody who can help you. Because when you're going to use a benefits broker like myself, there's no cost to you for our services. We are paid a fee which is set by the federal government to help enroll you into the Medicare program of your choice. And furthermore, it is a fee which is required to be the same paid by every insurance company, so there's no incentive for me to try to steer you to anything other than what is your best interest.
Gotcha.
So get involved with the professional who knows what's going on, and be mindful of the fact that this is the time to get these things done, because you will be on the clock, you are on a calendar, and what you decide today will affect your benefits for tomorrow.
Here's the thing. We know at the basketball game when the clock's going to run out. We don't know in life when the clock's going to run out. So, Jay Cox, my personal benefits expert for purposes of this radio show, thanks for being with us.